G'day, welcome back to Plugged in Australia. On today's episode, we're going to cover some updates on Kia's smaller EV lineup, some significant cuts bringing smart electrics into sharper focus, what the data says on Australia's most affordable options with usable range, Volvo CEO outlook on EV pricing parity, Polestar securing more capital, an over-the-air update for Geely owners, MG teases a fresh sedan competitor, pushback on EV demise narratives, and much, much more. Let's get into it. Alright, just a bit of an update on a story we brought to you earlier in the week, and Kia has confirmed an all-wheel drive version of the EV3 compact electric crossover that it will be heading to Australia, expanding options beyond the current front-wheel drive models that are already on sale. This all-wheel drive variant uses dual motors for improved traction and performance, expected to deliver around 195 kilowatts, up from the two-wheel drive's 150 kilowatts. Battery will remain at 81.4 kilowatt hour pack for up to 560 kilometers WLTP range in front drive form, though all drive will likely trim that slightly due to extra weight and drivetrain losses. Real world estimates probably around 450 to 500 Ks. Fast charging stays strong at 128 kilowatts DC. Pricing hasn't been locked in, but it should slot in above the current Air and GT line front drive grades, starting at 56,950 and 67,490 drive away. As we mentioned previously, the high-performance EV3 GT, which does have 20 kilowatts more than this other all-wheel drive, the one that's supposed to be coming, plus it's a sportier tuning. It hasn't been confirmed, and early reports suggesting that it is most likely confused with this all-wheel drive one. Kia are citing demand and lineup priorities. So this all-wheel drive edition does give buyers better all-weather capability for Australian conditions. And 195 kilowatt in a small car like that is going to be plenty for what it was made for, which is just general city driving. I can't see many people wanting to road trip in this sort of vehicle. Keeping with the Kia news, on the smaller end, prospects for the entry-level EV2 in Australia are dimming. Originally positioned as an affordable urban electric below the EV3 with compact hatch design and about 400 kilometres of range from a mid-sized battery, Kia has indicated limited interest in bringing it here due to market preferences for crossovers and SUVs. No firm cancellation, however they are focusing mainly on the EV5 and EV3. I really do think pricing has more to do with it than anything else. If you'll indulge me for a minute, if you have a look at the closest right-hand drive market, which is the UK. Now I know the EV2 hasn't been launched there yet, however it is due to be launched very soon. So they're projecting a price of 25,000 British pounds for the EV2. Now, if you have a look at if you translate that to Australian dollars, that is $48,639 at today's conversion. The thing you've got to keep in mind is that for whatever reason, the cars in the UK are much more expensive. There could be taxes. Now, these are all before on-road costs, but tariffs, I'm not too sure about that. I'm just going to compare the like for like. So if you look at the EV3 GT line, converted into Australian dollars, in the UK, it's $76,763 to be exact. At today's conversion, that our cars here are $63,950 before on roads. So that represents a approximately 20% difference. So if you take that pricing difference and put that to the EV2, if it's not going to be $48,000 in Australia, it would be sort of around the $40,000 neat. Now that EV2, whilst not exactly the same, it is very similar to the BYD Atto 1. So you can't compare it to the Atto 2 because it's a good 200mm shorter than the Atto 2, but it is very similar in size, marginally larger than the Atto 1. But in Australia, the essentials, so base model, which is what I'm comparing the EV2, is $23,990 before on roads. So okay, you might pay a bit extra for your Kia brand, but you're going to need to be sub 30 grand drive away. The base model is 26,500 as of today's date, drive away for the essential. So, people might pay a few extra thousand, but it's got to be around that 30 grand mark. And if you have a look, the disparity, I don't think, cars are sold with percentages. I can't see them having $10,000, which is probably about 30 odd percent up their sleeve to be able to sell that. So although they say, we want to focus on the EV3 and the EV5, which is true, I just don't think that they can get the price of that car to where it would need to be in the Australian market. I don't know. You may have some different thoughts. You can let me know about that. Let's move on. All right, switching over to Smart, and they have applied some significant cuts across its #1 compact crossover and the #3 coupe SUV lineup to boost its appeal. The #1 premium drops 10 grand to 44,990 drive away. The Pro Plus drops 11 to 48,990, and Brabus Performance flagship drops 13.5 to 64,990. The #3 premium will fall 10 grand, 45,990. The Pro Plus, again, 11,000 to 49,990. And the Brabus will drop 13.5 to 65,990. Some substantial price cuts. The #1 premium offering 440 kilometres of WLTP range from a 66 kilowatt hour battery. Rear drive, 200 kilowatt motor. And premium features, it's got things like a panoramic sunroof. Actually, I think it's just a panoramic roof. The adaptive cruise. Higher trims get things like heat pumps for efficiency and faster charging. The move addresses slower initial sales, making Smart more competitive against MG, GWM, and your entry Tesla and BYD options. So good for those that are wanting a more European styling with that Mercedes influence. As always, when they have big drops in price like this, it is going to hurt resale value, and that does hurt brand impact. So when people are looking at these cars in the future, they say, somebody bought this and over 5 years it lost X percentage, and that's due in part to the massive reduction in price. Something to consider. Looking at the most affordable fully electric options with at least 120 kilometres of real-world range, the landscape starts with the GWM Aura, aka the Funky Cat, at around 35,990 drive away in base form, offering 310 to 420 kilometres of WLTP range, depending on whether you go for the 48 or the 63 kilowatt hour battery. Rear-wheel drive, a quirky retro design with a good standard amount of kit. The MG4 takes the value crown though in many configurations, under 40 grand, with up to 450 kilometres of range from its 64 kilowatt hour pack. Some sharp handling and rear drive layout. Now the BYD Dolphin entry sits similar, around 38,000 with 340 to 424 kilometres of range. Then we have the Nissan Leaf. That one there's around $50,000 with 385 kilometres in the larger battery form. These beat out older and shorter range models, providing usable daily distance for city commutes without breaking a budget, especially with running cost savings over petrol equivalents in the same price bracket. Polestar has raised an additional US $400 million in equity funding to address cash needs and support growth. This follows previous investments providing runway for new models like the 3 SUV and the upcoming 4, 5 and 6 lineup, while navigating a challenging premium EV market. Geely EX5 owners are receiving an over-the-air update adding Android Auto compatibility alongside wireless Apple CarPlay, which is already included. This enhances infotainment for the mid-size SUV, allowing seamless phone mirroring for navigation, music, and apps on the large central screen. MG has previewed an upcoming electric sedan positioned as direct competition to the Tesla Model 3, BYD Seal, Kia EV4, and the Mazda 6e. Details remain light, but expect rear or all-drive range ranges from over 500 kilometers from LFP batteries, faster charging, and aggressive pricing under $60,000 to undercut rivals. Styling shows sleek, fastback lines with sporty proportions. Narratives around the demise of electric vehicles seem to be overstated. Shock horror. With global and Australian sales continuing upward momentum into 2026. Factors like new affordable models, such as the AWD at $23,990, this will open up the EV market to even more customers, as it will be amongst the most affordable new cars of any propulsion on sale this year. Now, there's still a way to go before EVs become a majority on the roads, but don't forget that they account for less than 10% of total vehicles at the moment. It is very clear that despite a slowing downturn of interest from manufacturers, electric cars are definitely here to stay. A little bit of a pivot to something still within the renewable sector. A new parliamentary inquiry is examining solar panel end-of-life management, reuse and recycling as installations boom, with millions of panels reaching 25 to 30 year lifespan reasonably soon. This probe aims to build local capacity for material recovery, things like lithium, silicon, silver, and reduce waste, tying it to the broader renewable and EV battery recycling needs. So don't forget, a lot of these critical minerals, these rare earth metals, can be reused over and over and over and over again. I know there's no lithium necessarily in the panels, but definitely in the batteries. So getting a recycling facility for panels is the first step to getting on to recycling batteries. And lastly, the all-electric MINI Countryman offers up to 462 kilometres of WLTP range in SE All-4 form, with dual motors getting 230 kilowatt, 494 newton meters of torque, with a 66.5 kilowatt hour battery and 130 kilowatt DC charging. Pricing for that one should start around the $65,000 mark, with its distinctive styling, its go-kart handling and premium interior, positioning it against the Audi Q4 e-tron and the Volvo EX30. And that's our episode for today, Friday the 6th of February, as I see the sun starting to rise. I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you for the little monologue in the middle of the podcast there. I just had some figures there that I thought might be interesting to put into context some of the reasons why car makers and importers make the decisions that they make. Please feel free to get in touch. We've just recently set up our Facebook page. Just have a search for Plugged In Australia. Alternatively, you can send us an email, info@pluggedinaustralia.com.au. That's all we have time for today. Until the next episode, stay plugged in and stay charged. Ci vediamo.